What's up, people? It's another episode of The Mindful CEO. I'm your co-host, Chris Angell, and I'm joined today by my other co-host, Aaron Hendon. What's up, Aaron?
What's up, Mr. Chris? Good to talk
Good
to
to see
you.
you.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's good to
sir.
be here. I feel happy. I got new lighting in my office. I'm very happy with it.
Your complexion looks much better. I didn't want to say that
I
before,
just
but
really got this handled. I did a Target run with my daughter. My daughter moved into her own apartment, and so I had got the opportunity to do big dad stuff with her this weekend. My wife and I went up and took her. We spent $200 at Target on apartment stuff, and
yeah.
I
Well, you're
got myself
glowing.
a lamp as well. So I was very happy
You
about
look
that.
you look beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, it's the old bald white man show.
Hmm.
Got to make sure we're shining. And today's guest, Drewbie Wilson, I'm really excited because Drewbie and I have been connected through Podmatch for, I don't know, probably almost a year now. I was on his show and a while back, and so many of the guests these days are just like people we scheduled last summer and that we've
Uh,
been waiting. And Drewbie is someone who stood out. Just, first of all, the vibe, the company. I'll let Drewbie introduce himself and you'll get exactly where we're coming from because this is sort of a throwback episode back to even when we were doing just pure real estate kind of
right.
conversations. This is
Yeah.
as throwback as we get. So, and you'll pick up on it as soon as, but if you're not in real estate, don't unplug yet. This is a general, intense, from hustle to
Yeah.
flow sales conversation. So we'll get there. But anyway, Drewbie, I'll let you introduce yourself and introduce your company because it's really one of the finest names of a company I've ever dealt with.
Well, I tell you what, Aaron, Chris, it is an absolute honor to be here. As you mentioned, I did schedule this thing like a year ago, and I remember thinking, who knows where I'm going to be a year from now when I'm on this show, but I tell you where I am right now. Again, my name is Drewbie Wilson. I am the founder of Call the Damn Leads. It is the movement behind every sales professional that needs a reminder to get up and do the thing that they know they're supposed to do so that they can make more money because money is the tool and the resource that we all use to live these amazing, cool lives that we have. And the only way to get more money is to call the damn leads. So I'm here to remind our friends and family and anyone out there in the world of that message and that mission.
It's great.
So good.
Yeah, and when Drewbie and I first ran into each other, I was running the level up real estate training, and that's Chris has been a coach with K Dub for years and years and years, and anyone who's trained new agents knows that's the thing that people resist more than anything. They want the training. I need to know more. I need more answers. I need to know how to do this
Hmm.
before I call the leads, and then you got to talk to them about the only way you get that is by calling the damn leads. That's how you get trained. You will
You know,
never
Aaron,
know.
I
Yeah.
here's what I found because I've been, this is my whole thing, man. I chat with people all day long, sales professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs, the whole gamut of people, because everyone is in sales, whether you like it or not.
Right.
And what I have figured out why so many people are afraid to pick up that 900-pound phone and call those damn leads, it's kind of like if they put you in front of three doors and they said, "Hey, do you want what's behind door number one, number two, or number three?" Most people have a really hard time making a decision because of uncertainty. They know there's something back there. They're not 100% sure what it is. They don't want to make the wrong decision. And also, that uncertainty is what keeps them from taking the one action that would get them a result. And the result could be whatever it is. But the point is, people have to be willing to step out of their comfort zone and be willing to open up that door to the conversation. And so many people are afraid of what's behind that door that they never take a chance to open it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And and that tension, as I was speaking and as you were speaking, Juby, I was realizing, whether or not you're. So first of all, let's just unpack everyone's in sales, just because we say that, and I know that, and you know that, and Daniel Pink's got a whole, the book To Sell is Human is inside that conversation, and I'm clear that that's the way it is. But just to unpack it, sales in a larger context is anyone who's out to move another to act. Whether you're selling your kids a bedtime, it doesn't matter. You're selling your ideas, you're communicating in a way in which someone is going to act on an idea you're presenting. That's sales. That's at the heart of it. So yes, everyone's in sales. You don't got to, because sales has such a shit connotation, the automatic default connotation for sales is sort of like, I'm going to get you to do something I want you to do. whether it's good for you or not. That's the that's the negative connotation that sales generally has.
Well, and
Um,
I think people look at sales professionals as takers,
yeah,
because if you're coming into my home to sell me something, you're trying to take my money, you're trying to take whatever that thing is that I value. And the greatest sales professionals that I've ever met and worked with, they're servants. Like they're not there because they're trying to take from you. They're there because they're trying to pour so much value into you that you feel almost like you want to pay them money because you know what's going to happen when you work with them. And again, I think that's kind of where that uncertainty comes in because when you're, let's say, newer to the game or, in any industry and you're just kind of realizing, oh, I am in sales, whether I like it or not. I thought this was just going to be I'd open my doors and everyone would come rushing to buy from me. And that's rarely ever the case in any industry, let alone real estate. And what tends to happen is people start thinking, well, like, well, why, am I good enough? Why aren't people wanting to reach out to me? Why don't people want to talk to me? Like, what's going on? So there's all these weird, like, mindset issues that go on, but it all comes back to the idea that if you can just show up in a room and genuinely care about another person long enough to hear what they have to say, 9 out of 10 times, they're going to tell you everything you need to know to simply say, well, if I had a product or service that could help with that, would you want to explore it? And they'll say, heck yeah. But so many people are afraid to just genuinely care about someone else first that's what causes that tension to begin with.
yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly what we found. Is and anyone can empirically test that for themselves. They know that any kind of hesitancy in that world of sales, any kind of hesitancy to present your idea is always a reflection of the concern you have about yourself. How am I going to look? What are they going to think of me? What happens if it doesn't go the way I want it to? The whole conversations around failure, but those are all inward facing, self conscious versus out here with them. If I just got out here with them and was just interested, which is really, Drewbie, we're speaking the same language because I just ran a 9 week. I just ran a 9 week. Actually, I'm in the middle of another one now. Mindfulness meditation training for sales professionals, where the whole outcome after 9 weeks of practicing meditation, practicing daily 10-minute meditation, and practicing it in this particular way, you're left with there is no separation between me and another. There's no other. There's just the beauty of meditation is that it quiets down all that fucking in our heads, and now we're available to listen, and we're not demanding the universe present itself in a particular way. That maybe maybe what I have to offer isn't for this person. Well, that's worth discovering too, because maybe I can direct them to who can help them. And your life becomes, like you said, of service. This is, you live a life of service. And the thing is, the great part is our sales on the team went up, depending on how you measure it, somewhere around 40%. And that wasn't from anything, like no new lead sources, no like, okay, now we're going to do bold 100s every day, or, just they are more available to hear what the other human being is looking for, and they have less attention on themselves.
I absolutely love that. And you said something about interest. And I heard a quote, maybe it was an Instagram reel somewhere, but it was like, if you want to be interesting, be interested. And the reel was, maybe it was a story I read, but it was talking about, this guy got on an airplane and sat next to someone on the airplane on the whole flight and spent the entire flight asking questions, talking to this person. And when they got off the flight, they interviewed the guest that was the passenger. And they're like, what did you think of the flight? And they're like, oh, it was amazing. The guy next to me was super cool, very interesting guy, like all the stuff. And they're like, well, what do you know about him? What was his name? I don't know. It's like, well, what do you know? It's like, you know what? Now that I think about it, I don't know anything about him, but he spent the whole time asking about me, which made me very interested in this individual, but they still know nothing about it. And that to me was like a key unlock moment because one of the things that I've had to learn in sales to get out of my own introverted kind of like shell, because I don't love being on stage, being on camera, all of these things that I do now, I had to learn and discipline myself to be able to do. And so hearing that and understanding that if you just ask people questions about themselves, people love to talk. They love to talk about themselves. It's the funniest thing. But you have to be willing to shut up and let someone else speak and then be genuinely in the space. Because as you said, if you're not used to meditating and quieting your mind, what I see a lot of professionals doing is they're looking at a script, reading the question, letting the person talk, and they're in their mind, they're already at the next part of the script.
Yeah.
They haven't even listened to what the person said. It's the wildest thing.
That reminds me, Aaron, of we did an episode a while back now that was like gratitude from the neck down. And we were just talking really about feeling the gratitude, not writing an affirmation in your head, but like really getting the feeling of being grateful for something. And I think curiosity is similar, like curiosity from the neck down, like that you would be really intrigued by the person you're with without a script, without an agenda, without an order to, but simply like, here's a human in front of me and they're going through, they're having whatever experience they're having. And I'm fascinated and interested to take the purple crayon for a walk with the person. Like, hey, who are you? What are you doing? What are you up to? What goals do you? I used to do this in college. I would meet people for lunch and I'd just be like, what are you passionate about? And people didn't know how to answer that. They'd be like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I don't know. Well, like, what do you like to do? And it was so interesting just to walk that conversation down the road. And I hear that, Drewbie, and what you're saying, like that there's inside the curiosity, there's something to explore and opportunities that can get created, but you have to be curious first for that opportunity to present itself. I think.
Yeah, and what I like about your process there is, if you go into the conversation with an idea of where you're wanting it to go, right? There's like the straight line system and all these different processes. I have one, I call it the calls framework. Very cliche, but it's simple, right? Confirm the reason you're having a conversation first. What's the purpose of this all, to begin with? Because like, I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste my time. And then if you're asking specific questions, people will tell you all the things that you need to know. And from the sounds of it, Chris, you went into it saying, hey, what's your passion? And if people didn't have the answer to that, you knew the next question was, well, what do you like to do? Well, when? Well, what do you do for fun? What do you do for work, right? There's a series of questions that you could ask that always led you, at least to a degree, to a point of conversation that you were comfortable with. And I think sales professionals need the same thing. You just need to have that series of questions that you can pull out of your back pocket. And at any given time in any conversation, you can get people talking to you.
And it's spot on for both of you guys. I think a lot of sales people if you get hung up on scripting, you're fucked. When I train salespeople, a couple of principles. One is, first of all, the only thing I'm going to train you on is the first line, because everything else comes from whatever they said. If you have a second line of the script, we're a little bit fucked. If you're already going to deal with objection handlers, you're already fucked, because you're now clearing for objections and you haven't listened. You were ready for it. No. Be interested. If you need a fallback, right? If you need someplace to go to, it would always be, tell me more about that. Or I have a question about that. And then just share what your question is. Oh, I hear, you can reflect back what they said. Oh, here's what I heard you say. Tell me more about that. Tell me why that is. What, did something happen where that was see, if you're not authentically interested, none of this matters. Because you can always fucking tell when I get on, oh my God, you get on one of those calls, discovery calls, and the discovery call is really, I'm just your pain so that I can give you my solution to your pain. I just need you to say what your pain is, because I'm like, oh my God, it makes me fucking crazy. Like, can we just, like I book a call, I want to find out about this product, and they're going to go through the discovery stuff. I'm like, dude, just tell me about the product. You already got me on the call, right? But let me making sure I understand more about your situation when they're not really interested in my situation. I'll tell you my situation. My situation is, I got 30 minutes for this call. I want you to tell me about the product and how much it costs. That's my situation. Well, tell me why you're interested. No, you fucking asshole. That's not what I want. You just didn't hear what I said. You're going through your script.
See, but this is why it's so important to understand that not every sales conversation is the same
None of them
because
are the same.
you don't know where your customer is in their journey, and you have to be able to meet them where they are so that you can
Totally.
get them where you want them to go. Now, and again, that's always going to be based on, is it the right fit? Are they a good customer? Because not all business is good business, you guys. The sooner you disqualify people that you shouldn't be working with, the sooner you will open the door for those big opportunities you've been asking for.
It's another
Yeah.
really good point. And people get, really, and people get really hung up. I know I do for sure. And anyone does in niching down, creating the avatar, creating the person you're supposed to look for because there's all this scarcity and I've got to take this business and I got to take this call. And we interrupt our lead gen time for random text messages that we think need to be responded to right away. And it's all scarcity. It's not coming from, I have something to offer that's of value to the right person. My job is to find those people. And I can do that. And in the meantime, I could be a great human being and be interested in whatever anyone's up to. And my solution is going to be perfect for some of them, and it's not going to be perfect for some of them. And I don't need to spend a ton of time talking to people who it's not the right solution for. Same thing if you're listening and you're running a company. Same thing with hiring. It's the same thing with hiring. It's not hiring is just selling your company to somebody, is selling your business to
Amen.
somebody.
I can't tell you how many times I've had that conversation with people. They're like, well, I got to hire people. And I'm like, it's just marketing. How are you marketing yourself to be the business that they want to be a part of? And that's the crazy thing. And this is kind of where the woo woo side of the sales comes in because you attract the kind of energy that you put out. So if you're wasting time chasing people that you know aren't going to be good business, guess what you're going to keep finding?
Yeah.
More bad business. And it's so hard to help people through that mindset shift of being able to say no, because no is a complete sentence. And
It
being able
really,
to say no is such a desirable skill for people, and yet they will not work on it. They will not create boundaries, and they will chase their tail till the ends of time, wondering why they're stuck making 60 grand a year and everyone around them's making multiple six figures because they got to get out of their own friggin' way first.
I'm curious what's underneath this because I feel like let's just assume that if they're in business, they want to be in that business. Nobody's forcing them to be the salesperson or the CEO or they want it and they believe in themselves or they believe in their product. And so because that's why they went into business. And they want their business to grow, but there's this moment, this piece, this thing that underneath it that's like call reluctance. I don't want to market. I'm trying to figure like what's the source of that? Is it, to your point, Drewbie, uncertainty? Is it none of us got enough love when in our childhood? Like what's underneath what's
Uh,
underneath all that?
that's
I think
good.
there's a lot of that. I think one of the things that I find in the conversations I have is imposter syndrome. So a lot of people are super passionate. They have 100% belief in their product and service until you ask them to stand up and actually represent it.
Uh-huh.
And I think what happens to a lot of business owners is they used to work in some place and they were successful in that role, but they didn't like being told how to do things, when to do things, what to do. And so they decide, you know what, I'm going to go and do this myself because why should I give them 50% of every deal that I have to go through and all these things that, go on when you make the shift from sales professional to business owner slash entrepreneur. Because it is a very drastic difference. And what people forget about is that when you're just making sales, that's all you're responsible for. But when you are now responsible for the marketing and the fulfillment and customer service and the tech work and all of the pieces that go along with launching a business, there's a lot more variables at play. And so it's not as easy to just step in and be like, cool, I'm confident. This is all I got to do all day long. No, it's 900 different things that you have to figure out. And again, because you don't know what you don't know, you're like, what do I do first? Where should I start? What are the things that are important? And it's because you're not willing to just come out and say, hey, I don't know what I don't know, but what I do know, I'm willing to take action and make decisions with. Too many people focus on the things they don't understand instead of just doing the thing that they know how to do well and then delegating the rest of it.
Or even it's good, Juby. I think it's really good. And Chris, to your question, so I was just to be a great call reluctance is a big deal for new agents. It's a big deal for anyone, but
Sure.
particularly training new agents. Call reluctance. Oh my God. Um, and there's this whole other world of if you train Gen Z. I don't know. I don't know the order of things. So I'm a boomer, late boomer, Gen X. What came after Gen X? Millennials,
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it
and
goes
then
Yeah.
Gen
X and
Z.
millennials and then
So
Z.
Gen
Yeah.
Z or whatever we are now, right? Don't call anyone. Like if you try and get them to call their friends about something, they're like they would think someone died. You don't call anyone. You text everyone. That's a whole separate conversation. But
It's
call
a good one though.
reluctance is that thing about imposter syndrome is totally valid. It you what people lack is the wherewithal to say, to be confident in saying, I don't know the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they could just say with complete confidence, I don't know that answer. That's there. The person on the other side is left with you were confident.
And they're more trustworthy. See,
They're
this I
totally
love that
more
you're going down this
trustworthy.
way, Aaron, because this is 100%. You're right. What happens is people are either afraid to pick up the phone because they don't know all the information and they recognize that. And I love those kinds of individuals because all that says to me is that you have an immense amount of integrity and caring in your heart. Because you don't want to get on the phone and point someone down the wrong path. You don't want to intentionally put someone in harm's way, which to me is a sign that you, more than anyone, should be picking up the phone and having these conversations because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people out there who just want to take advantage of others. So if you're not the one who's calling and genuinely caring about them, like that's why the world's in the way the world is. But even further than that, the fact that you brought this up, but like the willingness to say, "Hey, that's a great question. I don't have the answer to it right now, but I want to make sure I get you the right answer. How about let's go through the rest of this conversation and any other questions that you still have and need an answer for, I'll take it to the guys upstairs. We'll get a recap and then I'll follow up accordingly." Because I promise you, there's always someone upstairs, even when you're the boss. Nothing makes me happier than being like, you know what, that's a great question. Let me run that up the flagpole. And people are like, wait, aren't you the boss? I'm like, every boss has got a boss. I'll be back to you with an answer, right? But just being able to say that is what allows people to go, well, when I run into something that I do, I'm confident that he's going to shoot me straight on it because he didn't just
Totally.
BS me. And everybody's BS meter is through the freaking roof right
Yeah.
now because of all the
Yeah.
nonsense. So you got to be a straight shooter.
And then so they're left with confidence. You're left with you have a reason to follow up, which is all you ever fucking want anyway. Is
Bingo.
another reason to call back. That's all we're ever looking for is a reason to call. That's other than I'm just calling to check in on how you're doing and shoot
Just
me in the
following
head.
up.
I'm gonna
How you
fucking kill
doing?
myself if I get one more. You do never say I'm calling to check in. No, no. Okay, so I'm calling with the answer to your question. That's a fucking call, right? So
Bingo.
okay, so just there's that, and then there's this other aspect of call reluctance, which is all about how am I going to look? How am I going to be perceived by the other, right? And I think the biggest piece is an unclarity about the value that they are here to provide. We're just going to go. We're going old school. We're just going to default to expired listing calls or FISBO calls or whatever. It's
Okay.
like, if you're unclear, if you think your job on that call is to try and get them to list with you, well, you're probably fucked to begin with because that's not the value you're here. That's got nothing to do with value. That's got to do with what you need. You are. If you're not clear about the value you're out to provide, then you really are screwed. You have to be really clear in an expired call, for example. You have to be, look, that person has a house. They're heartbroken, frustrated, and upset that it didn't sell. Do you think that's how they wanted it to go? Of course not. They have a real problem. You have a potential solution. You've got to call and find out. You're not calling to uncover their pain and agitate it and do all. You're not there to manipulate it. You're there to actually provide value. Then, if they don't want to hear about your value, okay, that's on them. No problem. Get on with your bad self and sit in your house for another year. Fine, but really, if they or you know what? But the point is, if you're clear about the service you're there to provide, the call reluctance goes away because you're just there providing a service for people. I'm here to provide a service. And is this a service that you'd be interested in discussing right now? And that could go with any salesperson. You're selling anything. Listen, here's the service I'm out to provide. Is that something you're interested in? No. Okay, great. Have a great day. They're not interested. Which is why we always start our calls with, hey, did I catch you at a bad time? Not anything else. Not, first of all, you got to ask. If you don't ask, if they don't, that's just I think that's the most cardinal sin of all. If you're just going to launch into whatever you're doing. And then did I call you at a bad time? Because it gives them a chance to say no, because they're always looking to say no. So now they've said no, it's not a bad time. Okay, great.
I love that. I love that reversal. And I'm a big proponent of asking questions, because asking a question puts the ball in their court. So it's on them to have to take the next move. But I love the way that you kind of go about that, of just like, get them to prompt. And if they start with a no, that's great, because we get all the no's out of the way first, and then we can move into the questions that they say yes to. And if they start saying yes, then you're on the right path.
Yeah.
I like too, there's a thing in here about value, which is I tend to find like value tends to show up when it's in contrast to things, right? Like, how do I know that gas at $2 a gallon is a good value? Because every other street corner's got it at $4 a gallon. Like, the reason I know something's valuable is because it is in contrast to something else. So if it's an expired listing and their house didn't sell, my ability to ask questions about how was that experience for you? What happened? What didn't happen? What do you think should have happened? If I can get how it was, and then it gives me a frame to bring what my solution is. It frames my solution. If I just give a solution and I don't connect the dots of contrast, then it just sounds like one more thing, one more solution that I don't know is going to fit. But if you can help them see what happened versus how it is with me, then there's contrast, and value shows up in the contrast, I think.
I really love that. And to me, I think that's where I like, a script isn't the way I want to go about it, but I want to have a framework or a blueprint to work from. Because, and to me, I use calls. So confirm the reason we're speaking, ask specific and relevant questions, listen intently. And that's supposed to, like, I always repeat that on my trainings, because people forget to listen. But once you've been listening and you know all the answers, all you got to do is lay out a plan that makes sense. Like, people are just looking for a plan so that they know what the expectations are. And as long as you can meet those expectations, then you're Gucci. Like, they don't care how much it costs. As long as I'm going to mentally see myself in the solution and the thing that I want at the end of this, let's go. And then you just have to secure the bag. Because at the end of the day, none of this matters if you don't get them to sign the contract and actually get paid. Like, building rapport, none of that matters unless you sign the deal.
And you got to, and that's the couple things there. So you talk about confirm the reason of the call. I literally tripled my close rate, tripled my signing on the line that is dotted rate by just starting all my meetings with, before we get started, tell me your intention for this call. Tell me your intention for this meeting. It's just,
wow.
Now
simple sales, baby.
I'm on a listing appointment, and I go, okay, tell me what you want to get out of this. Tell me what your intention is. So now I know everything that I need to know. I can speak directly to it, and they feel heard. They feel respected. I'm interested. I'm only here for you. So you tell me about your intention. What is it that you want to get out? What would be a win out of this hour meeting for you? And all I have to do is deliver on what they said. I don't have to fucking go through all my goddamn iterations of what I was prepared and was expecting in the last 3 listings that I didn't get, and the person that came before me. None of that matters. They just literally told you what they want, what their intention is, what they'd like to get. Then you can deliver that. So that's your C, right? That's what you call C. That's how I do that. So I was like, oh, look, Drewbie does the same thing. I must be on the right track. It's very valid.
Birds of a feather,
Yes. Then I had another thought in there. So we could, the listening piece. Yeah. So this is back into the woo-woo meditation land, but When so I have a book, a meditation training and it's part of the course. The book is part of the course, but the course is From Hustle to Flow, Selling More by Stressing Less. And we get to listening, mindful listening, and I've tied it to what's called metta, which is metta, Drewbie, is the Sanskrit Pali word for loving kindness. And it's a meditation that you do where you first start with extending loving, you wish, may I be well, may I be safe, may I live free from stress. The exact thoughts aren't really critical, but you start with yourself, wishing yourself well. And then you start with others, wishing them well, both strangers, people you don't like, everybody. And it creates a clearing in which you're listening from their highest good.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually hear what they're saying. You can actually hear what people are saying, and you're doing nothing there except what would provide you your highest good. And people hear that. And, there's a million studies about this. Like, we all know when people are doing other things when we're speaking, whether you're on the phone or on Zoom or in person, if they're not listening to you, you can tell. And they can tell when you're not listening to them. And they can tell when you're fully present and fully available and 100% there for them. They can tell. And it's a little bit woo-woo, but it's really is, you don't have to, it's not, like channeling, and it's not like Esther Hicks woo-woo. It's just sort of, you can't quite measure it, but you goddamn well know that you've walked into a room and felt tension, and you've walked into a room and felt joy. And there's no scientific measurement for that, but you have felt that, and that is a real phenomenon. And just like that, you can hear when someone is listening for your highest good. And practicing metta in that way as a skill to practice wishing people well is life-changing for salespeople, because you're no longer attached to, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get mine. I live in an abundant universe where there's plenty to get. And if this person isn't it, then they're going to know somebody, or we're just going to give, it goes back to, what is it? Is it Zig Ziglar? You want to make $1 million?
Help enough people get what they want.
Have enough people get what they want, right? Is that Zig?
And you'll get what you want. Yeah.
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 It's that world that we're talking about, and access to that world. So that's, that piece that you said about reminding people to listen.
Well, and I think, you mentioned something about like that shift. And you can tell whether you're in person, on the phone, on a Zoom, there is a tonality shift. There is a language shift. The way that they use words will change whether they're in a fight or a flight situation. Because that's kind of how humans are built. Like, we either fight or we flight. And for the most part, in a fight situation, the way that they're fighting their own hesitancy to make a decision. Because that's one of the hardest things in the world to get people to do, is to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
So if people are in that fighting with themselves, like, you've got to be able to get from across the table. I don't know what training this came from, but it was like, how do you get from across the table to shoulder side? Because if you're shoulder to shoulder, people will feel like there's an energy and a connection there. And you can notice that when you're having these conversations. And that's why, as you said, it's so important to know that not everyone is going to operate and think the same way. You've got to be able to listen for those little key words, those little phrases that tell you who the person is on a much deeper level. And you can't do that if you're not actively listening. So I love that meditation practice. And I'm going to have to go grab that book. And if not, you're going to have to send it to me. Because I love learning this stuff, man. This is those little pieces that we pick up on. This conversation today is as much for me as for the listener, because even though I've been, done $15+ million in sales, thousands and thousands of transactions, like, every day I still look to learn something new. And that's where I believe my skill set for sales has come, because I'm just trying to learn something new about you. I'm trying to learn new about my prospects, new about the services and the solutions we provide, because that energy and that information, when we're pouring it into the cups of those around us, it's just making room for people to keep pouring into our own cup.
I do like too, there's a piece of the bigger picture that when you're asking questions, and the questions aren't just limited to the service that I offer, like a for sale by owner, like um, I'm going to ask questions about your desire to sell the house. But if I can expand the conversation to the life goals, I see this a lot with practitioners of things. They tend to hyper focus on the thing they sell. So I'm a massage therapist. Most of my questions talk about your fascia and your muscle and what's sore and but I don't say like, well, what does life look like for you at 80? Where do you want to be 10 years from now? If I can expand the conversation, then what I do today in the thing I sell, the service I have, is one piece of a much bigger interest that you have about your life and your vitality. And so and by the way, again, to the point of contrast, most salespeople aren't asking these bigger questions. So they're not tying in their solution to the bigger journey you're on in life. They're trying to get you to do the thing that they sell. And so if you can bridge what it is you do to the bigger picture thereafter, it just seems like it makes the process much easier. Because now to your point about being shoulder to shoulder, I'm here trying to get you to where you want to go 10 years from now, not just this massage or this house. There's a bigger context here, and I'm on your side, not just trying to get you to do something.
I really like that. And what I think it comes back to me when I'm looking and evaluating any sales conversation, 9 out of 10 times, the thing I'm focused on most is how can I help this person see that they're going to get time, energy, and effort, not money. Like
Yeah.
money is easy. At a certain point, we all go through the mindset shift where money just becomes this number and this energy, and we attract it. And we like money's easy. We all know how to make more money, but we
Yeah.
cannot get more time, energy, or effort. And so when I'm working with someone and I'm trying to help them understand the value of our relationship, it is how much time, energy, and effort can I save you? Because those are finite resources. So if I can help you save them, then you're probably going to be okay giving me a little bit of the money, knowing that that money is a tool and a resource every single person on the planet has to use. We don't have a choice. Like we all have to use money in some fashion or another to get the things that we want. And for most of us that have achieved this level of success, which is a whole other conversation we can talk about, but anyone who's got to this point realizes like we need more money so that we can buy back the time, have the energy, and put in the effort into the things that matter to us most. And that could be our personal lives, our relationships. It could be some arbitrary goal that you've created for yourself. But the other person in that conversation, they have their own goals. They have their own version of success. And it's my job to help them understand how I'm going to get them there faster and how they're buying time back at a discount.
Yeah.
It's interesting, when you were talking, Drewbie, you mentioned, that we could talk about how you measure success and buying your time back. And I think it's it's worth exploring or at least being responsible for. It's out there to look at. It's a story about a guy, whatever, Wall Street capitalist guy goes on vacation to the Caribbean, and he's at a small fishing town, and he sees a guy going out on his boat every morning and going fishing. You know the story, Chris?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know the story, Drewbie?
I love this story. I can't wait for the listener to hear it if they don't.
Okay, great. Yeah, if you don't know the story. So, and you guys correct me because I probably will fuck it up at the end. But, he talks to the fisher, he sees him every morning going out, and he talks to the fisherman about what he's doing. And he says to him, if you caught an extra 2 fish, you could sell those extra fish and you could make a little bit more money, and then you could buy another boat and hire someone to go out. Now you'd have 4 fish, and you could keep going, and then what? And the fisherman's like, okay, well then what would happen? Well, then you could buy a 3rd boat and maybe even a bigger boat with bigger nets, and you could come back and you would sell all that fish to the town, and you would then get some more money, and then you could keep expanding your fleet. And the fisherman's very interested, and he's like, okay, well then, and then what would happen? And well, you could spend your time managing. You would then not even need to go out fishing anymore. You could stay on land, and you could send all your people out to fish. And okay, and then what happens? And then, well, you could have all these boats, and you would then wind up with a big fleet of fishing boats, and you could keep expanding it out and out. And then what happened? Well, then you could, you could at some point there, you could sell it all, go retire, and find yourself on a beach fishing.
Wait a minute, Aaron. It's like
I
I've
feel
been sold a
judged.
farce my whole life. What
Right,
do you
exactly.
mean?
Judged. Don't judge me, Aaron.
Exactly. But I mean, there's that to be responsible for is like, if you're not really in love with what it is you're doing now, you're trading your time for money to get more time is a fucking insane life to live. That's the Lamborghini leaning life, Chris. That's the hustle
Hmm.
culture that,
Yeah.
the sort of the
It's
subtext of the show, Juby, is slaying the dragon of hustle culture one mindful moment at a time. Um, the opportunity to be present to the joy of what you're doing. Call reluctance goes away. All that stuff goes away because my job is to serve people, but truly and authentically to serve people. So I wouldn't, I'm fishing now. I would be fishing if I retired. Find a life where you're doing that. You know,
I I often ask when I do my keynote presentations, I'll ask, have you ever been at the office and you can't stop thinking about all the stuff you got going on at home? And a lot of people will be like, "Yeah, I've been there." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then when you get home, have you ever noticed that all you can think about is all the stuff that you didn't do in the office that day? And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Isn't that fucked up?" Like,
Uh-huh.
because on either side, you're not really giving your all or any sort of real effort to the thing because your mind is in a completely different place. And I can speak to this from personal experience. So, like, I've got a really long story. I've written 4 books. If you want to hear the whole thing, go read them. They're on Amazon. But, like, the long and short of it is I grew up overweight, out of shape, unhealthy, barely graduated high school. I was your typical loser. And it wasn't until I started realizing that no one was going to save me and I was going to have to be the one who put in the time, energy, and effort to get the life that I wanted. So I did
Mm.
that. I found personal development. I started listening to podcasts like this. I found coaches and mentors and I leveled up hard. Went from making 30K a year to making 150K, retired my wife, thought, man, I am crushing it. Until December of 2019, on Christmas Eve, when my wife gave me her wedding ring back and said, hey, listen, man,
oh, what a place to lose him.
Hopefully the
Come
recording
on back,
caught it.
GB.
What did she say?
Oh my God, this is a
what?
Oh my
very.
God, I'm on the edge of my seat.
All right, GB, you got to
Oh,
come back. You froze up.
I froze up. All right.
We
So,
lost you right when your wife was going to say something. She gave you the ring back and she said, "Hey,
oh
dude,"
my
and then it was like,
goodness, what a
oh my God."
cliffhanger. I
It was a
can't wait
total
for that to be
cliffhanger.
on the show. So hands me her wedding ring back. 2019, Christmas Eve. She says, listen, man, you're either going to be married to your career or you're going to be married to your family. What do you want? And at the time, it was like the lowest blow because I'm like, hold on a second. You don't have to work.
Mm,
You're taken care of. I pay all the bills. Like, what are you even talking about? And I didn't realize that even though I was in the room, I wasn't in the room. I
mm,
was in my mind building this future and I was, playing
mm.
Minecraft, if you will, and all these things building this future
Wow.
room, watching me stare at my phone, watching me do whatever I was doing and wondering, my wife's going, who's he talking to? What's he laughing about over there?
Yeah.
What's so funny? And my
Mm,
son's going, hey dad, can we build some Legos? And I'm going, yeah, let me finish this call. Let me make this post. Let me do this thing.
mm,
And it was the biggest shift when I realized that there's only 24 hours in a day. And I don't care how you slice it, I can't be guaranteed any certain amount of it. And at the end of the day, I have to realize what is my time worth? Where am I spending it? And am I getting a return on that investment?
Yeah.
Because no one else can give me that kind of return except for me. And what I encourage people to think about is what is your time worth? Because if you haven't figured that out lately, you're putting yourself in a world of trouble. And so the easiest math is take whatever you did last year, main job, side hustle, maybe you're selling pictures of your foots on the internet for people. I don't care. I'm not judging. I'm just saying. If you're putting in the
How did
energy
you
and
know?
effort,
How did you know?
listen, bald white men are popular on the internet apparently.
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
don't
we're,
man.
we're
know. It's
doing
a
that.
it's a whole niche subgroup, right?
I
Like
have
you
nice
guys are
feet.
doing good.
Good to
Hey,
know. I didn't know
I
I
have
could
nice
do
feet.
that. Oh my God. If
now
that
you
were
guys
only
know. If you
so.
needed another hustle, right?
Thank you.
That
Thank
was
you.
only so.
But
It's
like
all right. We can rent ourselves out as bears. I bet I could be a bear.
again, no judgment. Whatever
It's
you got
fine.
to do, your version of success is your version, brother. I'm not here to tell you how to live it. But if you're doing those things, you got to figure out what is your time worth. So if you add all that up and divide
Mm,
it by 2,000, which is what a quote average person would work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, 2 week
mm,
vacation, right?
mm.
that's what you're worth. So if you made 100 grand, you're worth $50 an hour. The math is the math. I don't care how you slice it. That's the math. What I also know is that if you're here on a show like this, you're not average and you're working way more than 40 hours a week because you're wanting to grow, you're wanting to scale. So that number's creeping down. But what's really scary, guys, is if I put my hood on and I start knocking on your door and I go, listen, Chris, Aaron, my name.
Drewbie, come back.
I love it. It's a great screenshot right there.
It is a great. You got to use that as our screenshot.
My ring, my doorbell, my Ring doorbell.
Your Ring doorbell.
it's got Drewbie in a hoodie with a hat.
Now we missed you.
I froze up again, but essentially,
again.
if I'm death and I knock on your door and you have 24 hours left to live, and I hand you a check for 50, and I say I need you for an hour, you're likely not going to come with me.
Right.
No.
But you're going to realize that at a certain point, there is a number to which you would say, for that amount of money and what I could do with it, with the funny feet, I'm on your doorstep, baby. Let's go.
Funny feet.
Because we know we need that money. It's a tool. It's a resource. But where we're spending our time, energy, and effort is ultimately what creates the life that we live.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, we got enough of that. Drewbie, oh my God, so the internet's getting worse over there.
I mean, with the conversation that we've had up to this point, I feel like it's a pretty good place to tie a bow on it. And I think
get Drewbie back to say goodbye. But
hopefully
I mean, that's, that goes back, Chris, to what we were always talking about, is that no one winds up on their deathbed thinking, I wish I had closed that expired listing.
Right.
But you do wind up on your deathbed thinking, I wish I'd seen more soccer games. My kids' soccer, no one winds up there. No one winds up in any other place. So, Drewbie, we were just saying when you were cutting out again that it's a natural place for us to wrap this conversation because we're so completely consistently aligned with everything that we're saying. I knew this would be like this conversation because we're, just that world of call the damn leads of acting produces results, and unless you're connected to something that matters to you, your actions aren't going to matter. You're going to hesitate to act. But as soon as you're connected to something that matters to you, action is natural. That's the space that you're looking for in terms of that tension between the mindful CEO. So we really appreciate you being here. Drewbie, if people want to get a hold of you, they want to learn more about you, they want to get swag, where do they go? What do they do? How do they reach you?
Yeah, I appreciate it. It must be the Starlink internet. There's a storm rolling through, so I apologize for my funky connection here on the end, boys. But that's what happens when you live in a van down by the river. We travel, we got an RV, so there's a whole story behind that. But honestly, if you guys enjoyed the show, if you're here listening, the best thing that you can do, share this episode on social media. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, doesn't matter. Share it on social media. Tag at Call the Damn Leads. 2 reasons. 1, it's going to let the 3 of us know that you got some value out of the time you invested with us today. And that means the world, especially for those of us that are taking the time to create this sort of content. So kudos to you guys. I appreciate the opportunity. But if you tag us, guess what we're going to do? We're going to call the damn leads. We're going to follow up with you. We're going to reach out. We're going to see, hey, what did you like about the show? What value did you get? Did you send it to anybody? Because that is the stuff that drives us as a company and me as a person, because I love to help others find that lane, get dialed in, and make their life the successful version that they want. So share it, tag us, go to callthedamnleads.com, order some swag, all the things. But more than anything, send this episode to somebody who sucks at sales. That way they can get better. Because the only way to get better is to learn. And sometimes some people have to tell us that we suck so that we'll take it seriously. So that's my story, guys. Nice. I appreciate it.
I love it. Thanks, Drewbie. I'll put that link in the show notes for you guys. So you can just go down below the video here, the audio, and click on the link there. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. If you want to do us a solid, feel free to subscribe to the channel or like the video. Also, if you're listening, we love a review, right, Aaron?
We do love a review.
Who
good,
doesn't love a
bad,
review?
And different. If you hate it, leave us a review. We'll know what to get better at. Really, there are no bad things you could say to us. It's all feedback.
Exactly.
There's no good feedback or bad feedback. It's all just feedback. So we appreciate you listening. And then just inside the tenor of the show, if you are a sales professional and you are looking to sell more by stressing less and you want to go from hustle to flow, the next Hustle to Flow starts on May 28th. That's a free 9-week mindfulness training for sales professionals from Hustle to Flow.
Wow.
You can go to therealtorsedge.com and get yourself registered for that
Nice.
if that's of interest.
Cool.
Go ahead, knock yourself out.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Aaron, thanks as always for your friendship, this thing that we do
This
together.
thing that we do.
This thing that we share. And Drewbie, it's great to meet you. I'm glad you were able on the show today.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you.
See you guys.